Okay, picture this. A massive library with over 3,500 different medicines. Each one has its own unique rulebook. How could anyone possibly master all of that? Well, today, we're going to decode the method that homeopaths use to make sense of this exact problem. So let's start with that number you're looking at. Over 3,500. That's how many individual remedies we're talking about in homeopathy. It is a huge and, let's be honest, kind of intimidating amount of information to learn. Which brings us to the big question, right? How can any student or even a practitioner who's been doing this for years possibly study and remember the unique details of every single one of those? I mean, it really does seem like an impossible task. The source material actually has a name for this challenge. They call it the maze of collection of symptoms. And it's a perfect description because it's so easy to get lost in the weeds, just drowning in the details of each remedy and completely losing sight of the bigger picture. This is the real hurdle in learning Materia Medica. So, how do you find your way through a maze? You need a map. And in this system of medicine, that map is called group study. It's a really elegant solution designed to help people see the patterns, to see the forest for the trees. So, what is group study, really? Well, instead of trying to memorize thousands of individual profiles, the whole idea is to focus on family traits. You learn the basic qualities and the core themes of remedies that are related, like all the remedies made from a certain family of plants or animals. And the whole point of this is pretty clear. By grouping remedies together, practitioners can simplify that mountain of data. It makes it possible to understand the core theme of an entire family of remedies all at once. The goal is to make the whole subject more logical so you can figure out the essence of a remedy instead of just relying on pure memorization. Okay, to really see how this works, we're going to look at some examples. But first, it's really important to mention that the principles of homeopathy are not supported by modern scientific evidence. Our goal here isn't to validate it, but to understand the methodology and the intricate system of thought behind it. So, with that in mind, let's dive into some of their most vivid examples, starting with the animal kingdom. This quote from the source material absolutely nails the core theme. The central idea for all animal-based remedies revolves around survival, things like competition, instinct, and aggression. And according to this framework, those exact traits become the key to understanding a patient's profile. And this leads to a pretty fascinating internal conflict. The person who is believed to need an animal remedy is often struggling with the split between their primal, competitive animal side and their controlled human side. And this can show up as symptoms related to aggression, deceit, jealousy, and a huge focus on performance and survival. And this is where we get to a core, almost poetic idea in this system, the doctrine of signature. The belief is that nature itself leaves clues, that the physical characteristics and behaviors of a plant or an animal give us direct hints about how that remedy should be used. And you won't find a better example of this in their literature than the Ophidia group, the snakes. The very nature of this snake is seen as an incredible roadmap to the symptoms a patient might be feeling. Think about this parallel for a second. Snakes, as we know, are extremely sensitive to heat. Well, according to this doctrine, a patient who needs a snake remedy is almost always worse from warmth, whether that's from the sun, from hot drinks, or just in the summertime. And the parallels can get even more specific, which is pretty wild. Snakes often coil themselves from left to right. Proponents of this method say that patients needing a snake remedy very often report their symptoms moving in that exact same direction, starting on the left side of their body and moving over to the right. And here's one more. Snakes are incredibly sensitive to touch and to vibrations in the ground. This is believed to translate directly to the patient, who might be so sensitive to touch they can't stand tight clothing around their neck or waist, and they get worse from even the slightest vibration or sound. Okay, so that's the snake group. But to show you how these themes can vary, let's look at another group from the animal kingdom, the Araneta, or the spiders. Here, the doctrine paints a completely different, but still very consistent, picture. The spider themes are totally distinct. I mean, just think about a spider's nature. Constant motion, cunning traps, that rhythm of weaving a web. This is said to translate into a patient who has extreme restlessness and maybe even deceptive behaviors. Their symptoms can have a clear rhythm or periodicity. And this is fascinating. A strong desire for rhythmic movement, like dancing, is said to actually make them feel better. Now, this whole systematic approach isn't just for animals. It extends to the plant and mineral kingdoms too. And each one has its own unique set of themes. For example, remedies from the plant kingdom are often tied to issues of sensitivity and emotional vulnerability, with symptoms that can pop up and change really fast, kind of like a flower blooming and wilting. Mineral remedies, on the other hand, tend to be about structure, development, and security, with problems that develop slowly and break down over time. So, when you boil it all down, the group study method offers a clear, structured path through the Materia Medica. The process is pretty simple. You start with the kingdom, you learn the group's core theme, and then you use that theme as a lens to understand all the individual remedies within that family. It's really designed to turn that confusing maze into a clear, navigable map. You know, when you look at these parallels, a snake's sensitivity to heat, a spider's restless rhythm, it all leads to the central philosophical question of this whole practice. Is nature itself writing prescriptions in its own language, just waiting for us to figure out how to read them? Thanks for joining us.